Most people believe their financial future is shaped by big decisions. The job they choose, the income they earn, the opportunities they find along the way. But sometimes the biggest difference comes from something much smaller, something so ordinary it happens every single month. In a quiet little town, life moves at a steady, predictable pace. People know each other. The same cafe opens every morning, and most days feel almost identical to the last.
So, are we still meeting
In this
up later
town
tonight?
lived
I
two
was thinking
owls,
about that new place on
Owl
Fifth.
A, named Milo, and Owl B,
I could
named
spend all
Rowan.
day in here,
They were
you
the
know?
same
It's
age,
just so
they worked on the
cozy.
same street,
always say that.
and they earned almost the exact same income. If you met them back then, you would probably think their lives would turn out very similar. But 20 years later, something strange happened. Owl, a Milo, owns a comfortable home, has savings, and rarely worries when a bill arrives. Owl B, Rowan, still feels tension every time an unexpected expense shows up. Now, here is the surprising part. Neither of them ever thought they were doing anything wrong with money. No risky schemes, no reckless behavior, no giant financial mistakes, just ordinary life. Same town, same salary, same opportunities. And yet, their futures slowly drifted apart. So the real question is not who worked harder. The real question is this: what small thing happened every month that quietly changed everything? When people hear a story like this, they usually guess the obvious answers. Maybe one of them earned more. Maybe one of them was simply more disciplined. Or maybe one of them just got lucky. But in this case, none of those explanations are true, because the difference between Milo and Rowan was almost invisible. It was not a big financial strategy. It was not complicated investing. And it was definitely not extreme frugality. In fact, if you watched their daily lives, you might think they were living almost the same way. They both bought coffee. They both met friends. They both enjoyed small pleasures.
I know, right? It was
Nothing
hilarious.
about their lifestyle looked dramatically different. But hidden inside their routines was a tiny habit. A habit so small, most people never notice it. And yet, over time, that tiny habit quietly reshaped their financial future. To understand how that happened, we need to go back to the beginning. Back to the moment when both of their lives looked almost identical. Meet Owl. A. Milo. Milo is calm, steady, thoughtful. He works at a small bookstore in town. Nothing about his life looks extraordinary. He wakes up in the morning, walks to work, greets the same customers, and sometimes stops by the cafe on the corner. Milo enjoys simple routines: a warm drink in the afternoon, a quiet walk through the park, browsing new books after closing time. Now meet Owl B. Rowan. Rowan works just a few doors down the street.
I swear,
Like Milo,
Barnaby,
he
if
earns
you
about
eat
the
all
same
berries
income.
again, I'm
Rowan
cutting
also
you off.
enjoys the little pleasures of life: trying good food, meeting friends in the evening, buying things that make daily life a little easier or a little more enjoyable. If you watched them during those early years, their lives would look almost identical. Same town, same work hours, same small joys. Neither of them thought of himself as a financial expert. They were not studying investing. They were not reading complex money books. They were simply living normal lives. And that is exactly what makes this story interesting. Because the difference that changed their futures did not come from something dramatic. It came from something small, something most people do every month without even thinking about it. Morning arrives quietly in the town. The streets slowly wake up, and the bakery opens its doors. The smell of fresh bread drifts across the street,
It's nice
and
to
the
just sit
cafe on the
here and
corner
watch the
starts
street for a
serving the
while.
first cups
I
of
agree.
coffee.
It's very
Milo
peaceful.
walks down the same street he walks every morning. He greets the cafe owner, orders his usual drink, and sits by the window for a few minutes before work.
I'm so glad
Across
we
the street,
finally
Rowan
made
is
time for
doing
this.
almost the exact
Me
same
too.
thing. Same
It feels like
cafe,
it's been
same
ages.
morning rhythm. Sometimes they even sit at the same table. If you watch them from the outside, their lives would look nearly identical. They laugh about work. They talk about movies. They complain about the weather. Just two friends living ordinary lives. After breakfast, they head to work. Milo opens the bookstore. Rowan opens his shop down the street. Customers come and go. The day moves slowly. At lunchtime, both of them step outside again. Sometimes they grab sandwiches. Sometimes they sit in the park.
It really is.
Sometimes they just
hope
scroll
the
through their
afternoon
phones
isn't
and
too busy.
relax. Nothing about this routine looks unusual. In fact, it looks exactly like the life many people live every day. Work, food, friends, small comforts, and tiny purchases that make the day feel a little nicer. A cup of coffee, a new book, a quick online order. None of these things feel like financial decisions. They just feel like life. And that is why the difference between Milo and Rowan is so easy to miss. Because it does not appear in the big moments. It hides in the quiet ones. For example, the day their salary arrives. At the end of each month, both owls receive their pay. The notification appears on their phones. For most people, that moment feels the same. A small sense of relief. Bills can be paid. Groceries can be bought. Life continues.
Me too. It
For
saves
Rowan,
so
that
much.
moment looks very
And this
familiar.
dinner looks
The money
amazing.
arrives. Then the usual things happen. Rent is paid. Groceries are bought. A few small online orders appear. Maybe dinner with friends. Maybe a jacket that looked interesting. Maybe something convenient that felt worth it in the moment. Nothing extreme. Just normal life. And at the end of this month, Rowan sometimes thinks, if there's anything left, maybe I should save a little. Sometimes there is. Sometimes there is not. And again, nothing about that feels unusual. Because this is exactly how many people manage money. Spend what you need. Enjoy life. And save what remains. Now, look at Milo. When Milo's salary arrives, something small happens. So small that most people would barely notice it. Before the money has time to sit in his account, a small portion quietly moves somewhere else. Automatically. Not a huge amount. Not something painful. Just a small piece.
Hey,
Almost
Rowan.
like it disappears
Milo.
before
Lovely
daily
day,
life
isn't it?
begins. After that, Milo lives the same life as before. Coffee, groceries, friends, books, walks through the park. Nothing extreme, nothing dramatic. If you watched both of them closely, their lifestyles would still look very similar. But hidden inside that tiny moment each month, a quiet difference has started to grow.
so close.
And for a long time,
Almost
neither of them really
identical.
notices it. Because the effects of small
But
habits
even-
rarely appear immediately. They appear slowly. So slowly that most people do not realize what is happening until years later. Seasons begin to change in the town. Spring arrives first. The trees in the park turn bright green. People walk their dogs along the small streets. The cafe opens its outdoor tables again. Milo sits by the window with a book. Across the street, Rowan is laughing with friends. Life feels calm. Nothing dramatic is happening. And that is exactly what makes this moment important. Because the biggest financial changes in life rarely happen during dramatic
This place
moments.
is amazing at
They
night.
happen during ordinary
No,
days.
the lights are
Days
beautiful.
that feel too small to
Let's
matter.
get some street food.
Summer arrives. The town festival
wow, we
lights
look
up the main
amazing.
street.
Post that
Music
right now.
plays in the evening. Food stalls fill the square. Milo and Rowan both enjoy the festival. They buy snacks, they meet friends, they take photos. From the outside, nothing looks different. Both of them are enjoying life. Both of them are spending money. And that is the interesting part. Milo is not avoiding life. He still buys coffee, still enjoys meals with friends, still takes small trips when he can. But every month, something quiet continues to happen. A small portion of his income moves away automatically. Not because Milo is thinking about money every day, but because the habit was built earlier. Now it simply runs in the background, almost like breathing. Meanwhile, Rowan continues living the way most people do. Money arrives, life happens. Groceries, bills, dinner with friends, occasional online shopping. None of these things feel irresponsible. In fact, they feel perfectly normal. And for a long time, everything seems fine. Years pass. Autumn arrives. Leaves fall across the park paths. The bookstore where Milo works becomes
Just
busy
got that one
again.
in yesterday.
People start buying books for colder evenings.
Absolutely.
Rowan's
Grab a
shop down the
loyalty
street
card on
stays
your way
lively
out.
too. Customers come and go. Another year passes, winter arrives, Snow covers the rooftops. The cafe becomes warm and crowded again. Milo and Rowan sit inside with hot drinks talking about the same things people always talk about: work, plans, small frustrations, and occasional dreams about the future. But something invisible is slowly growing. Every month, small pieces of money quietly stack together. Tiny amounts, almost too small to notice. But over time, small things that repeat begin to become large things. Not overnight, not suddenly, but slowly. Very slowly. And that is the reason most people miss it. Because when change happens slowly, it feels like nothing is happening at all. Until one day, something unexpected happens. Most days in the town feel predictable. The same streets, the same shops, the same familiar faces. But every once in a while, something small happens. Not a crisis, not a dramatic life event, just one of those ordinary surprises that almost everyone experiences at some point. One afternoon, near the end of winter, Rowan walks out of his shop after work. The street is wet from melting snow. He unlocks his scooter, turns the key, and nothing happens. He tries again. Still nothing. A mechanic nearby takes a quick look. A few minutes later, the answer is clear. The battery is dead, and a few other parts need replacement. The repair will cost a few $100s, not a fortune, but not something tiny either. The kind of expense that appears suddenly in many people's lives. A broken phone, a repair bill, an appliance that stops working, a cost you were not planning for. None of these events are dramatic, but they all arrive the same way, unexpected. Rowan sighs and checks his phone. He scrolls through his bank account. The balance looks a little tight. Not terrible, but not comfortable either. So he starts thinking. Maybe the repair can wait a few days. Maybe he should move some money around. Maybe he should delay a few other expenses this month. Nothing catastrophic, just a little stress, a little mental calculation. Now, look at Milo. That same week, something similar happens. The heating system in his small apartment suddenly stops working. The repair technician arrives the next morning. The cost is almost the same as Rowan's repair. Again, not a huge disaster, but definitely unexpected. Milo checks his account, then calmly schedules the repair. No panic, no difficult decisions, just a quiet solution. From the outside, the difference still looks small. Both of them fix the problem. Both of them continue their lives. But internally, their experiences feel very different. For Rowan, the expense feels like pressure. For Milo, it feels like an inconvenience. And that subtle emotional difference is often the first sign that something deeper is happening. Because money does not only change what we can buy, it changes how much space we have in our minds. Space to think, space to breathe, space to handle surprises. But the story does not stop there. Because this small event is only the first moment when the quiet habit begins to reveal its power. And over the next few years, that difference will slowly grow. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but steadily, almost like a tree growing in the background. Quiet, invisible, and stronger every year. Time continues to move forward in the town. Years pass quietly. From the outside, the lives of Milo and Rowan still look very similar.
Hello, Rowan.
They still
Lovely
meet at the
day, isn't
cafe
it?
sometimes.
certainly is,
They still
Milo.
talk
Good
about
to
work.
see you.
They still
So I
enjoy
told
the
them
small
we need
things
more
that make
time.
life
They actually
pleasant.
agreed.
That
Coffee,
never happens.
good
You must have
food,
presented a
a new
really strong
book once
case.
in a while,
I think the
a small
illustrations
trip
helped.
during the summer. Nothing about their lifestyles looks extreme. But beneath the surface, something has been slowly building. Let us take a closer look. Every month, when Milo receives his salary, a small portion moves automatically into savings. It happens before anything else. Before groceries, before shopping, before everyday spending. Just a small piece. Maybe 10%, maybe a little more in some months. At first, that amount did not look impressive. It felt almost too small to matter. But months turned into years, and those small pieces quietly stacked together. A few hundred became a few thousand. Then a few thousand slowly became something larger. Not because of luck, not because of sudden wealth, but because the habit kept repeating. Meanwhile, Rowan's life continues in a very familiar pattern. Salary arrives, life happens. Rent, groceries, dinner with friends, maybe a new pair of shoes, maybe a small online purchase. And at the end of many months, there is not much left. Again, nothing irresponsible, nothing reckless. Just the way many people naturally manage money. Spend what you need, enjoy life, and save whatever remains. But there is a quiet problem with that system, because when saving happens last, something else almost always happens first.
That's not a mouse, that's my wallet.
Life. Unexpected expenses, tiny comforts, convenience purchases, subscriptions, small upgrades. None of these things feel significant on their own. A coffee here, a delivery meal there, a monthly subscription, a useful little purchase that feels harmless. But when these things appear before saving often gets pushed aside, not intentionally, just naturally. And here is the part most people miss. Saving last does not look dangerous. That is exactly why it quietly becomes a pattern. Now, something interesting begins to happen. As Milo's savings slowly grow, his decisions start to feel easier. When a repair appears, he does not need to panic. When an opportunity appears, he has options. Meanwhile, Rowan is still doing fine. He is not failing. He is not irresponsible. But every unexpected expense requires a little more adjustment, a little more planning, a little more stress. And this is the moment when the hidden pattern becomes visible. The difference between their futures was never about income. It was never about intelligence. And it definitely was not about one of them working harder. The real difference was much simpler. It was the order of their money. For Milo, money arrived. A small part was saved. Then life continued. For Rowan, money arrived, life happened, and saving tried to fit in at the end. Same income, same town, same opportunities, but two completely different sequences. And over time, that tiny difference quietly shaped their future. At this point, you might be thinking something. Maybe Milo is simply more disciplined. Maybe Rowan just spends too much. But the truth is a little more complicated than that, because the pattern we saw in Rowan's life is not unusual at all. In fact, it is the default system many people grow up with. Money arrives, life happens, and saving tries to fit somewhere at the end. Not because people are careless, not because they do not care about the future, but because our brains naturally prefer something else. Immediate rewards. Think about how different spending and saving feel. When you buy something, the reward is instant.
This spot is lovely, isn't it?
You can see the coffee, taste the food, hold the new item in your hands. Your brain immediately understands the benefit. But saving money feels very different. Nothing exciting appears in front of you. No new object. No visible reward. Just a number quietly sitting in an account. And because the benefit of saving happens in the future, your brain does not feel the reward right away. It feels distant, almost invisible. Now, think about ordinary life. You open a delivery app after a long day. You are tired. You are hungry. A warm meal can arrive in 20 minutes. Your brain understands that reward perfectly. But saving that same money for years from now, your brain struggles to imagine it. Or imagine walking past a store window. You see something you like. You can buy it today. You can use it tonight. But saving that money instead does not create the same emotional pull. And that is why so many people accidentally fall into the same pattern. Not because they planned to ignore the future, but because saving does not shout for attention. Spending does. Spending feels real. Saving feels abstract. Spending often feels like living. Saving often feels like delaying life. And when life gets busy, the abstract things get pushed aside, which means the story of Owl A. Milo and Owl B. Rowan is not really about two owls. It is about a pattern many people quietly follow. Work, pay bills, enjoy life, and hope there will be something left to save. Sometimes there is. Sometimes there is not. But the deeper lesson of their story is surprisingly simple. Small habits matter. But the order of those habits matters even more. Because when saving happens first, your future slowly gets paid. And when saving happens last, your future often gets whatever is left. Or sometimes nothing at all. The sun begins to set over the small town. The streets slowly grow quiet again. The cafe closes its doors. Lights turn on inside the bookstore. And the park becomes calm after a long day. Milo walks home along the familiar street. A few minutes later, Rowan walks the same path. They still live in the same town. They still drink coffee at the same cafe. And they still enjoy many of the same small moments in life. From the outside, their lives do not look dramatically different. Both of them worked. Both of them paid their bills. Both of them tried to enjoy life along the way. And that is an important part of this story. Because this was never a story about one owl being good with money and the other being bad with money. Rowan did not make reckless decisions. He did not waste his life chasing expensive things. He simply followed the system that many people naturally follow. Money arrives. Life happens. And saving waits for whatever is left. Milo, on the other hand, did not live an extreme lifestyle either. He did not stop enjoying coffee. He did not stop meeting friends. He did not remove the small joys of daily life. The only real difference was something much quieter, something almost invisible. The order of a single habit. When money arrived, Milo paid his future first. Then he lived the rest of his life normally. And over many years, that small shift created space. Space for unexpected problems. Space for opportunities. Space for peace of mind. Because in the end, money is not only about what we can buy, it is also about how much pressure we carry in our thoughts. How much freedom we feel when something unexpected happens. And how many choices we have when life changes. So the story of Owl A. Milo and Owl B. Rowan is really a story about a quiet pattern that shapes many lives. The difference between financial stress and financial stability often begins with something very small, not a big investment, not a complicated strategy, just the order of one decision repeated every month. Money arrives. Then, what happens next? For many people, life spends it first. But sometimes, changing the order of that moment can slowly change the future that follows. And that change does not require a completely different life. Sometimes it only requires a slightly different sequence. A small habit, repeated quietly. Month after month, year after year, until one day the future you hoped for has been quietly built in the background.